Well, hey there, Pastor Jerry, Samaritan's Heart Mission Church. Hope you're doing well. We are moving through our series on Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' manifesto, if you will, his declaration of dependence, that he parachuted behind enemy lines to save us. And it's really Jesus explaining the upside-down world, or that's the way it looked to the world around him at the time, what it meant for us, that he came, that he was going to die for us, that hadn't happened yet, and what we would look like afterward. That's what the Sermon on the Mount is really all about. It's who we will be. Because you see, the name of this series is Culture War, not to be confused with Culture Wars, the political catchphrase that still exists in America today. This is the culture war, kingdom culture, the culture of heaven versus carnal war, the culture here on earth that goes on here and here. And we've been walking through this. My goodness, this is part 5. So let's do a quick recap. We started, of course, with the Beatitudes, the character of the kingdom, the character of people who say yes to Jesus. We are meek, we are peacemakers, all of those things. Blessed are, congratulations, this is what you look like. And then we talked about where Jesus, at the Sermon on the Mount, talked about us being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We can bring value to others when we live like Jesus, when we love like Jesus, when we care like Jesus, and be the light of Jesus, the light of him that shines in us that we can share to the others. Mike Dockham, when he preached one week, called us the fruits of the kingdom. And then Mike preached on the law of the kingdom, that is kingdom law, Jesus coming to fulfill the law that Moses handed down, and what that means. We're no longer slaves to the law. We were never supposed to completely obey the law. It was to show us what sin is, to prepare us for Jesus' arrival. Last week, I spoke about anger. Anger, revenge, and the inability to forgive, or the inability, rather, to love your neighbor. And those three things all hinge on the inability to forgive. And we talked how forgiveness is the remedy for all of those things. For anger, for revenge, and for the inability to love your enemies. So that brings us to today. And today is Matthew 5:27-30. That's chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. And the name of the message is lust. Jesus talks about some other things there, but we're going to focus in on lust. Lust, I want it now. That is the definition of lust. Whatever it is we're lusting for. Yes, we can lust for sex, and that's what most people think of lust. And we'll be talking about that today. Lust for power, lust for food, lust for attention, lust for money, and on and on. And lust simply is the sinful desire that I want it now and I don't care what it takes. All right, before we jump into that, we are doing this every week, or it's kind of resetting how this works. It's important that we understand the context, which is going to be really important today. It's important anytime you read the Bible, anytime you read Sermon on the Mount, but it's going to be really important today to understand the context. Glean the principle being taught in the passage, then see if that needs to be balanced, the passage you're reading in Sermon on the Mount, with another principle in order to understand the full counsel of God. Compare the Bible with the Bible, because the Bible will never contradict the Bible. And then once you do all that, go back to the passage you are working on in Sermon on the Mount and attempt to live that principle out radically. Radical means unprecedented change. That the principle you learn, you absorb, radically changes your life. Unprecedented change. So, I want it now. Lust. Here's the passage. You've heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust, what's lust? I want it now. I want her now. Has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. Staring at women makes you lust, gouge your eye out. Hang with me. For you to lose one part of your body, it's better to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. This is one of those moments, context, context. Do we take Jesus literally here? If we're struggling with an issue, and I'll start with men, but this is women too. If we are staring at a woman and our thoughts turn to lust, hey, I'll just gouge my eyes out. I'll never have to worry about that again. No. We do want to take Jesus literally if we understand that the literary technique he is using is hyperbole. Hyperbole. Extreme language to make a point. For example, have you ever said or had someone say to you, he came down on me like a ton of bricks? I have. What does that mean? I mean, it was really aggressive behavior to make a point. The guy really lit me up. Did he light me up? No. That he really was forceful, aggressive, probably angry with me. But there's a difference. We say, well, he was very forceful. He was very angry with me. He came down on me like a ton of bricks. See the difference? Jesus' point is lusting is sinful, and sin is serious business. But the larger point is that all lust starts in the heart. What did he say? I say, if you look at a woman with lustful thoughts, you have already committed adultery in your heart. The eyes, mouth, tongue, they respond to the condition of the heart. Let's look at a couple of verses to deal with this. See, we got to go to the source of what Jesus is talking about here. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Prophet Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9, he's getting that from God. Don't trust your heart. That's dumb. You can't trust your heart. We see in the Gospels, Jesus didn't rely on people because he knew what was in their heart. Maybe even more than they did. Almost certainly more than they did. 17th century minister and writer Matthew Henry addressed this. It's very famous, and he's used a lot for study and teaching. The heart calls evil good and good evil, puts false colors upon things, and cries peace to those whom peace does not belong. When men say in their hearts, that is, suffer their hearts to whisper to them, that there is no God, or he does not see, or he will not require, or they shall have peace, though they go on in these and 1,000 similar suggestions, the heart is deceitful. That is why God gave the prophet Ezekiel some medical news. Oh, maybe you didn't know. I'm a cardiologist. I'm not just a cardiologist. I'm the greatest heart surgeon in the world. My specialty is heart transplants. Okay, is that what God said? No, but yes. And I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender heart. Responsive heart. And I will put my spirit in you so that you will follow my decrees and be careful to obey my regulations. You won't try to follow my decrees. You will just do that because that will be the position, the condition of your heart. You see, what Jesus is saying is he's talking about plucking out eyes. He's talking about cutting off hands. But what he's talking about is the heart, because the heart of the matter is the heart. All lust, I want it now. All of that comes from the condition, the position of your heart. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation, Paul writes. The old is gone. The new has come. The new life has become a new heart. It's really a new you, that's true, but it's a new you because you have a new heart. You have a soft, tender, unstony heart that is receptive to Jesus and the Spirit of God guiding your life. A new person with the heart and spirit of Jesus Christ. So yeah, that means Ezekiel 36:26 is a heart transplant. Jesus isn't talking about giving you a new eye, because it'll do the same thing again. Or a new hand, it'll do the same thing again. It's got to start here, because the heart of the matter is the heart. Did you ever consider this? A heart transplant requires two things. Someone needs to die and surrender their heart. Who does that sound like? Jesus. Jesus died and surrendered himself. His heart was to surrender his whole self for us. So the donor has to die. Jesus, however, is no ordinary heart donor. He died and rose again. There are a couple of things we don't think about. Someone needs to let their old heart die. Someone has to die, but a heart has to die so the donor heart can live on in the same body. But the person has to accept this. They have to acknowledge their heart is diseased, can't go on. People can say no to heart transplants. The doctor, and obviously you have to be of a certain age, if you're 70, 85, whatever, there's a point where they say this doesn't really make sense. But if you're 35 and for whatever reason, a massive heart attack, other heart disease, and the doctor says, you're going to die without a new heart. It's basically what Jesus is saying. You're going to die to sin if you don't get a heart transplant. You can't make your hand behave. You can't make your eye behave. You can't. We cannot make our hearts behave. Jesus can, by giving us a new heart. So someone needs to die and surrender their heart. Someone needs to let their old heart die and accept the new heart. So, in this case, the heart surgery we're talking about, Jesus gives his heart to us to receive it. We must let our old heart die. You can't have two hearts in there. I mean, think about it. The surgeon, man, if this guy had two hearts, I'll bet that would work really well, because two is always better than one, right? No. The diseased, stony heart must be removed. They've gotten really graphic and really good in movie and TV shows with this. Boy, it looks like a real heart. They both look like real hearts. I mean, it's amazing stuff. And, they have the blood pump. They bypass the heart. So, you're not dealing with that as a surgeon. That's bypassed around that whole cavity. Remove the heart, put in the new heart. Because, as is the case with the physical heart transplant, here, Jesus is talking about lust. The heart of the matter is the heart. And lust is I want it now, and all lust begins in the heart. So let's walk through some of the things. This is not an exhaustive list, but some of the more, if you will, popular things that we lust. We lust money. I want it now. What's the ultimate example of lusting for money? I want it now. Spending $100 at a 1 in a gazillion chance to win $1 billion. I want it now. I could do things. I could pray to Jesus. Should I have a new job? Should I have a new vocation? But the reality is, it would never be enough money. Enough is a very tricky term. We never think we have enough. I often say, Jesus at times God has provided enough, sometimes more than enough. And if you don't ever think God is providing more than enough, you're probably asking too much in some regard. Food. I lusted food most of my life. I weigh about 150 pounds. Most of my life it was 230-ish. I lost a lot of weight for the third or fourth time in 2014, and I was beginning to put it back on until I realized, I'm running 4 or 5 miles several times a week and doing all this. I am trying to outrun my lust. It's just like trying to cut off your hand or your eye. The problem wasn't I couldn't run far enough. I would never be able to outrun the lust that my stomach fueled. But it wasn't my stomach, it was my heart. I was filling that God-shaped hole in my heart with food. Even though I had accepted Christ, I still hadn't totally moved on. And Jesus said, I hate to tell you this, but you're not eating to live. You're living to eat still. Not as much as you used to. Now, it's about 170 pounds. And he's like, well, you've been here, Jerry, a bunch of times. You know how this ends, right? The heart of the matter was the heart, and I started eating for Jesus. I lost the 20 pounds, and I've kept it off for 2 years so far since Jesus and I had that conversation. Here's another one I lost it for a lot. The next two are big for me. Power. Power in that I had a radio show, and I wanted it to be really influential. I wanted to be important. I wanted to be someone. This little regional show. I wanted more than that. God in his infinite wisdom was never going to give me that because he hasn't, one, that wasn't my talent level, but two, he had a different plan for me. And you know what went with that? Attention. I would have done anything to get attention. Anything. To the show, to myself. I look back, I can't imagine how insufferable I must have been constantly talking about myself. And sex. You didn't think I was going to leave this one out now, did you? This really is, in this particular passage, this is the lust that Jesus is talking about. Sexual lust. Looking at someone and deciding you really want sexual intimacy with that person. It doesn't matter what God created sexual intimacy for or how the use of that gift, and sexual intimacy is a gift. I ask this anytime I do premarital counseling. Why did God give us the gift of sexual intimacy? And some couples will blush, well, procreation, have kids, and to show our love for each other. All those things are true. To give glory to him. Every gift God gives us is to give glory to him. Letting our hormones control us shows there's a serious heart matter. And I want to dig down deep on this because when we think of how destructive sexual lust is, and Jesus said, whoever's lusted over a woman in their heart has already committed adultery, okay? And that's what we think of. We think of men who keep looking too long, and ultimately it leads to physical adultery. We think of how it's destroyed marriages, but lust is what weaponizes sex. Lust is what leads to rape and other types of molestation. It is horribly, horribly destructive. All of those that we mentioned have their levels of destruction. But sexual lust, having your heart filled with the desire for sexual contact, is so destructive. And I want to give you a couple of examples that deal with this church. We, of course, here at Samaritan's Heart serve the unhoused. And that has led me to learn a lot about what it means to be an unhoused woman these days. I will tell you that most women living on the streets carry a knife with them. The first time I learned that was she showed it to me. This woman showed it to me. She told me she keeps it because the first night she was out on the streets after prison, she was raped. Because homeless men really don't care about controlling their lusts. And to them, it's just women on the street, target-rich environment. And that's the way they treat them, as opportunities, not as human beings. That's the destructive nature of lust. Okay, now you have an unhoused woman, and she has a serious drug addiction, heroin or whatever, and she's living house to house. And there are guys, oh yeah, you can stay in my house, but you're going to have sex with me. And I have come to the aid of women that dealt with that, they leave. Or if the woman's a heroin addict and she needs to get to the methadone clinic the next day, oh yeah, I'll give you a ride in the morning. No worries. Stay here tonight. I'll give you a ride in the morning. Morning comes. Oh yeah, I will, but we have to have sex first. You understood that, right? I thought that went without saying. Women hear these things. That's rape. He's just using a bed and a car and not a knife or a gun. This is the destructive nature of sexual lust. And prostitution. Prostitution is becoming normalized, where we call it sex workers. I don't judge men or women who make their money that way. I pray for them. I pray for them. Because you are selling yourself, and ultimately you will sell your soul. And I understand it's out of desperation. They need money, not judging them. But unfortunately, there are enough men and women who are controlled by lust that will make uses of a sex worker, a prostitute. And it's not something we should celebrate. It's not something we should make award-winning movies about. Movies really gloss over the very ugly, unseemly side of lust that leads to people using sex workers. And come on, today, many sex workers have been, they're sex slaves. They're not really there of their own free will. Human trafficking. All of that goes back to lust, and all of that goes back to the condition of the heart. That's why Jesus is saying, you either treat the symptoms, cut off your hand, gouge out the eye, or deal with the root cause, which is the heart. The heart of the matter is the heart. But here's the thing, going back to why Jesus would say that, here's a reality. Sometimes special diets are required after heart transplants or even open heart surgery, even if God changes your heart in some way. So cutting off your hand or gouging out your eye, might mean restricting your spiritual diet. Even if God has put a new desire in your heart. I've shared this. I don't go to buffets. I'm not going to go to an all-you-can-eat opportunity where I spend $16. Well, I'm going to get my money's worth and eat 3,000 or 4,000 calories in one sitting, any more than someone who is in recovery from alcoholism, should go to a bar. Yeah, there's a new heart, a new spirit and all of that, but there's still the old temptations of the world. So, yeah, if lust reaches a point of addiction or close with you, you're going to have to limit visual opportunities, money. Avoid the temptation for stuff, food. Limit opportunities for the heart to be tempted into overeating. by the eyes and the hands. Power and attention, same thing. Because you see, your new heart is susceptible to heart attacks too. We slip, we stumble. Jesus wants to save you from that. I gave you a new heart. Take good care of it. Watch what you put in it, just like food. Watch what you put in it. So now what? Is some kind of lust controlling you? Is something got you? Sex, food, money, power, attention. Okay? Have you let Jesus give you a heart transplant? If not, I encourage you to turn to Jesus today. Does that mean automatically whatever the controlling lust is will be gone? Maybe, maybe not. Again, that's where Jesus may tell you, okay, you receive him, but Jesus may still say, okay, give you a new heart. But this world is really hard on hearts. So we're gonna have to put you on a spiritual diet. But it all begins with your heart. Let Jesus do the operation's called a 36:26, Ezekiel 36:26. But I will give you a new spirit and put a new heart in you, and I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Whatever you're struggling with today, ask Jesus for a 36:26, because the heart of the matter is the heart. God bless.